WMIA flag is placed in remembrance of those missing in action and unaccounted for in all wars. It is the American Legion's position to attempt to account for all these brave men and women.
Good afternoon, and welcome to this year's Memorial Day American Legion Awards program. I'm Hannah Slivkanich. The Star-Spangled Banner will be performed by the Chamber Choir. The Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Senior Vincent Thomas, who is enlisted in the Air Force, Senior Veronica Moyer, who is enlisted with the Army National Guard, and Juniors Alyssa and Brianna Cahoon, who recently enlisted in the Army National Guard as well. To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Mrs. Stout, our high school principal, will now offer some opening remarks.
I would like to begin this program by giving a special thanks to those veterans who play a role in your lives each day. Please stand when I call your name. Second Lieutenant Louis Safran, United States Army. Specialist Eric Griffin, Pennsylvania Army National Guard. Gunnery Sergeant Paul McCormick, United States Marines. He's in the booth. Airman First Class Denise Kowalik, United States Air Force. Captain Fred Bresser, United States Army Military Intelligence. Lance Corporal John Foley, Chief of Police, Forest City Police Department, United States Marines. And a very special thank you to our high school seniors, Daniel Hollis and Vincent Thomas, enlisted men, United States Air Force, Private Veronica Moyer, Pennsylvania Army National Guard, and high school juniors Alyssa and Brianna Cahoon, who have recently enlisted in the Pennsylvania Army National Guard. Thank you all for your service. On May 30th, 1868, a crowd of more than 5,000 gathered at Arlington National Cemetery for the first Decoration Day. Decoration Day would go on to be celebrated across the country before later being deemed a holiday in 1971, when Congress passed the Uniform Monday Holiday Act and established that Memorial Day was to be commemorated on the last Monday of May. It was James Garfield, who at the time was an Ohio congressman who had served as a Union Major General during the Civil War. He would later become the 20th President of the United States and serve a term of 200 days. He addressed the crowd. Garfield set a standard by explaining what Decoration Day is all about and why it should be commemorated. While standing before the crowd, he began his speech by stating the following: I am oppressed with a sense of impropriety of uttering words on this occasion. If silence is ever golden, it must be here, besides the graves of 15,000 men whose lives were more significant than speech and whose death was a poem, the music of which can never be sung. With words we make promises, plight faith, praise virtue. Promises may not be kept, plighted faith may be broken, and vaunted virtue be only the cunning mask of vice. We do not know one promise that these men made, one pledge they gave, one word they spoke, but we do know they summed up and perfected by one supreme act the highest virtues of men and citizens. For love of country, they accepted death, and thus resolved all doubts and made immortal their patriotism and virtue. Today, approximately 400,000 are buried at Arlington National Cemetery. Service members from every one of America's major wars, from the Revolutionary War to today's conflicts, are interned at Arlington National Cemetery. Memorial Day is a day where we honor those who have given the ultimate sacrifice, and it is because of those brave men and women that we continue to live a free life. Memorial Day is a somber holiday, one where we should take time to reflect on all that we have because of all that others gave. And I ask you to please join me in a moment of silence to honor those who, in the words of President Garfield, have made immortal their patriotism and virtue. Thank you.
Changing of sunlight to moonlight, reflections of my life. Oh, how they fill my eyes.
greetings of people in trouble, reflection of my life.
Oh, how they fill my eyes.
All my sorrow, sad tomorrow, take me back to my own home. All my crying, feel I'm dying, dying. Take me back to my own I'm changing, arranging, I'm changing, I'm changing everything.
Oh, everything around me.
The world is a bad place, a bad place, a terrible place to live.
Oh, but I don't wanna die.
All my sorrow, sad tomorrow, take me back to my own home. All my crying, feel I'm dying, dying. Take me back to my own home. All my sorrow, sad tomorrow, take me back to my own home. All my crying.
It is my pleasure to introduce to you today's honored guest speaker. Mr. Robert Leschak was born in Long Island City, New York. He is the son of the late Louis and Jean Leschak, who were both born in Forest City and Vanling. Mr. Leschak has been married to the former Barbara Groom for 51 years. They have 3 children, Todd, Kevin, and Krista, and 6 grandchildren. 5 of the grandchildren are students here at Forest City Regional. Before his marriage and moving to Forest City, Mr. Leschak worked for a brokerage house on Wall Street in New York City and attended Pace College in New York City. Then, in 1966, Mr. Leschak was drafted into the United States Army. He was ordered to Vietnam in 1967. After his duty to our country, he returned to Wall Street and joined the American Stock Exchange. While employed there, he founded the American Stock Exchange Discrepancy Department. He left New York City in May of 1971 to marry his sweetheart, Barbara. After graduating from Lackawanna College, Mr. Leschak continued working until his wife opened a flower shop called Rainbow Floral. A few years later, his father-in-law, John Groom, passed away. Mr. Leschak wanted a few changes made with the funeral arrangements. In conversation, the funeral director's wife mentioned to Bob that he should become a funeral director. The following week, the Forest City News in odds and ends read, "Local merchant to become funeral director." Mr. Leschak couldn't believe what the paper had reported, but the article changed his life. Mr. Leschak entered mortuary college 7 months later at the age of 40. 3 years later, he purchased his funeral home. Mr. Leschak's son, Kevin, took over the funeral home in 2007 and renamed it the Kevin M. Leschak Funeral Home. Over the years, Mr. Leschak has held many positions, including President of the Forest City Commercial Association, Simmons College of Mortuary Science Class President, Lackawanna Funeral Directors Association President, Forest City Borough Council President, and the first and only male president of the Forest City Regional Home and School Association. Additionally, Mr. Leschak is a life member of the Disabled American Veterans, chairman of the We Are the World Lip Sync program, chairman of the Forest City Old Home Week, chairman of the Ambulance Association, and chairman of several haunted house fundraisers. Mr. Leschak is a past member of St. Joseph's Church and Choir, Forest City Lions Club, St. John's Players, West Side Players, and performed in Joe DeMarc's original play, Judas. Mr. Leschak is a very creative person of many skills, but most of all, Mr. Leschak is a proud disabled Army veteran of the Vietnam War. Please join me as we welcome Mr. Leschak.
Very nice. You did a good job in doing that. I thank you again. It was the 8th of June in 1966 that I was inducted into the U.S. Army at a local board, 57, Long Island, New York. I was transferred to Fort Jackson, South Carolina, for processing. After a week of taking all tests, which were hours and hours and nonstop, some of the questions that were asked were, have you ever killed an animal? How did you feel? Have you ever went hunting? Have you ever went camping? Do you like to walk in the woods? Why were they asking so many crazy questions? I couldn't understand it. The Army wanted to know who we were, and they found out very quickly. Then came the barbershop. Buzz, buzz, buzz. We had no hair. I couldn't recognize any of my friends that I met like a couple of days before. Everybody looked the same. We all had green uniforms and buzzed hair. Our processing was now completed, and I got ordered to report to Fort Gordon, Georgia, during the months of July and August. It was hot, hot, hot. This was for basic training. Then one day, a soldier's watch was missing, and he couldn't find it. But the watch was spotted on another soldier the next day. Our drill sergeant was a true drill sergeant. No sympathy for anyone. Matter of fact, we were scared to death with him. That night, we were ordered to do or conduct a blanket party. And I'm going, what is a blanket party? I thought, well, do you put a blanket on the floor and sit around and have a party? No, I wasn't right. But what we did, we learned fast to put a blanket over the head of the guy that stole the watch. Everybody kicked, punched, and beat him, and the guy just was unbelievable. Everyone was ordered to join in. The drill sergeant told us that no one steals in the Army. The next day at formation, the soldier who stole the watch looked really bad. The drill sergeant looked at him in his eyes and he said, "Looks like you had a fall down the steps last night." And then he smiled at him. We were shown instructional movies and also had meetings in our barracks, but I had one big problem. I was so tired, and I would fall asleep during these movies or presentations that they gave us. But my drill sergeant, as I said before, had no sympathy. "Lestrack, get down and give me 20. I was like scared to death again, so I had to get down on the floor and give him 20 push-ups. Then, of course, there was the dying cockroach position, where you had to lay on your back, put your arms up in the sky and your legs, and hold it for 10 minutes. That taught me a very good lesson. I never fell asleep again. Soon enough, basic training was over, and we had graduation with our drill sergeant, leading us to the grandstand of Fort Gordon, Georgia. He was one tough guy, but that tough guy put me in the best shape of my life, and I will always recognize him for doing that. Then my orders came. I was assigned to Fort Eustis, Virginia, 61C30, Marine Engineer, Machinist, Marine, Gas Engineer. How in the world would the guy coming from Wall Street become a Marine Engineer? But we all worked as a team and we excelled. It all went well with no problems. Being in those hot engine rooms with the heat of the engines was no treat. We were at the end of our training, waiting on our new orders and location, and the day came. You are hereby ordered to report to Fort Dix, New Jersey on December 30th, 1966 for transportation to Saigon, Vietnam. My throat just fell to my stomach. Reports of Vietnam was in full swing now. Reports of our soldiers being killed each day came over the TV and in newspapers. And now I will be going there also, not knowing if I would come back or not. I was given a month military leave to be with my family and friends, but the month went very fast. On the last day, before leaving, I wanted to say goodbye to a very close friend of mine. It was snowing outside, but I had to go and say goodbye. And that's when I had the accident. My car slid on the snow, and I sideswiped another car. We got out of our cars, and I told the guy that I was sorry. I said to him that I'm going to Vietnam in the morning, and I was going to see a friend of mine. And I also said, my father is going to kill me. He replied, if your father doesn't kill you, maybe you'll be killed in Vietnam like the others. That was a very good send-off for me. I really appreciated that. But it just showed the type of send-off and the people, how they responded to the guys in Vietnam. The morning arrived quickly, and it was time to say goodbye to my mom, my dad, and my sister. I told them not to worry, that I would write a letter, but it would take about a month to receive it. They would not know if I was alive or dead. There was no cell phones. There was no computers, no technology at all. They just had to wait for that letter. When we were flying to Vietnam, spending New Year's Eve in the sky, arriving New Year's Day, January 1st, 1967, we were all just kids, 18, 19, 20. But we all became men overnight. When we arrived at the airport, we saw flag-draped caskets being loaded into cargo planes. Rows and rows and rows of caskets covered with flags. Bring them home to their loved ones for burial. That was the situation. These soldiers, our heroes, fought for our country and paid the extreme sacrifice. They will never be forgotten, especially on Memorial Day. I was assigned to a Marine Maintenance Support Group at Cam Ranh Bay in Vietnam, which was very close to the Mekong Delta. My unit was stationed on a beach. Other soldiers went to different places. Those tests back in Fort Jackson, they found out a lot about us and our capability, what we could do. Some were sent out to the jungles where the fighting was. Some were given office jobs. But we were there as one unit, helping each other, supporting each other. All around the beach on Cam Ranh Bay, there was no greenery, like no trees, no shrubs, even inland from the beach area, all sand. It was all sand. Then we found out that we were in an area highly exposed to Agent Orange. Agent Orange is a defoliant chemical, causes cancer. It was spread all over and cleaned all the greenery, and it was also used so that the enemy could be seen and not hide in trees or shrubs. But it leveled all the ground. It was used to clear areas to build so you would be able to see the Viet Cong coming. My unit slept in tents that were on the sand, surrounded with sandbags with sand. Our mess hall was a larger tent on the beach. The sand would blow all over. It would blow on our food, so we ingested it. We inhaled it, we slept on it. During the day, we were transported to a floating machine shop called the FMS, which was on the Mekong Delta, and boats that needed to be repaired would pull up to it. My job in the transmission department I was the only one put there. The guy before me showed me and taught me everything that he could in 1 week, but not one boat came in to be repaired. I was on my own. I knew how to put all new parts in the transmissions, but I never removed one from a boat. I didn't know how to repair them. So, a week later, my first landing craft, an LCU, the boats that go inland, and the front of the boat goes down and the soldiers go onto the land from the water. My first landing craft did come in then. The engine room was 3 decks below. It had 3 engines and 3 transmissions. The engine room had steel plates going all the way up to the 3rd part of the ship. A crane was put in place, and it pulled the transmission out of the vessel and brought it to the FMS. The crew of the vessel removed all the plates, so I didn't have to do that. I was in the hot engine room disconnecting the transmission. Then I had to push the shaft of the transmission in towards the water. Well, now water is filling up the whole engine room, and I am in panic. The ship is going to sink, I'm yelling out. Well, one of the crews came in nonchalantly. Oh, that's all right. I'll turn the bilge pumps on. The water will be gone. I went, phew, I'm saved. So, here I was screaming, but the crew member did come to my aid. I got the transmission into my area and now decided how to repair it. I would never give myself, or I would never forgive myself or live with myself if somebody died because of my lack of intelligence. So, what I did, I took all the parts out of the transmission, every single one of them, and I took them and I threw them overboard into the Mekong Delta, which they are probably still there after 50-something years. And I put all brand new parts into the transmission. Every single part was brand new. They went on a test run, and everything just worked great. I continued doing this operation for 1 solid year, and nobody had a problem. I sliced my finger on one of the parts of the transmission. So every day I see this scar, and what do you think when I see this scar? I think of Vietnam. So that was my job during the day. Nighttime was a different story. Bombs and mortars and everything was blowing up in the sky, and you could feel the ground shake, and there was action all over around us. I would take my arms, I would put them over my ears like this in bed so that I could not hear them. Nighttime was a different story. I slept with my arms over my ears, and I still do, matter of fact, now. I had developed a skin rash from all the heat. I had heat exhaustion. I passed out. I saw a friend driving a truck. He was loaded with metal grid, which is used on the road so that a truck could go over the sand, and that he was able to transport this grid. Well, he was on a hill, and he was driving down the hill, and a Vietnamese girl ran in front of his truck. He slammed on his brakes so that he would not hit this girl, But as he slammed on his brakes, and you could hear the brakes squeak, all that metal grid shifted into the cab, and it decapitated him. His body slid on the horn, and all you could hear, that horn was blowing and blowing and blowing, and like it would never stop. But we weren't able to go where he was. They wouldn't let us. My body today and my mental state of mind has affected me my whole life. Even more after I retired. It was like every day, all I could think about was Vietnam. I try to get out of my head. I try to go to support groups, which helped me a lot, but they're still there. And I just try to control it the best I can, because I have to. Vietnam will never leave me. So when I die, I want this blanket, which I would like to show you. I found this blanket one day. I just want to come over a little. Okay. I found this blanket one day, and I looked at it. Vietnam did not kill me, but Agent Orange is trying to, which is so true. Vietnam, we forgot without America's support, or we fought without America's support. There was no welcome when we returned. I had a lady at the airport when I got off the plane in Seattle, Washington, and she came up to me with a tray of cookies, and she said, "Would you like a cookie? Would you like a cookie?" And I'm going, "Would I like a cookie? No, I don't think so." So I didn't take her cookie. It was a very nice gesture when I think of it now, but then it hit me. I went to the airline where you check in, and I said I would like to fly standby going home. And she said to me, "Well, in order to assure it, you would have to pay full fare." And I said, there's no room available for military standby? And she says, "Well, we never know." I got on the plane. There was 50 empty seats. That's how we were treated. We were spit on. We were called names. People didn't welcome us home. We had no welcome. It was like we weren't there. But this blanket, could you just turn it a little this way so I could read it? It says, Vietnam veteran, been there, done that, and damn proud of it. Another one says, Vietnam veteran, don't let me down. I could still kick ass. Another one has a picture of old man. What is it? Who is also a Vietnam hero. Not everyone who lost his life in Vietnam died there. Not everyone who came home from Vietnam ever left there. And then it has pictures of Agent Orange. It has guys out in the jungle area, helicopters flying, bombs going off with the helicopter trying to pick people up, bring people home that are wounded. And I said, we came home and death came with us. And that is the God's honest truth. Thank you very much.
Mr. Leschak, for your service and for sharing your story with us.
Thank you. Thank everybody.
Every year, the American Legion Auxiliary sponsors a Miss Poppy essay contest. The 8th grade girls are given the opportunity to write an essay reflecting what the poppy means to her. As you may know, the poppy flower became popular when the American soldiers fought a bloody battle on Flanders Field in France during World War I. The essays were chosen anonymously, and Emma Marakovich is this year's winner. Retired Colonel Jeffrey Swigel, American Legion Post 524, will present Emma with her award.
Good afternoon, everybody. As he said, I'm Jeff Swigel, United States Air Force veteran, and the winner, as she announced, this year was Miss Emma Marakovich, and Post 524 is here to present on behalf of the auxiliary a certificate of appreciation to Emma, Miss Poppy, and a $25 check. Thank you very much, Emma. And now I believe you get to read your, yeah, excellent. Thank you.
What the poppy means to me. The poppy is a flower that reminds me to honor those who gave their blood, sweat, and tears defending our country. These veterans deserve our honor, they deserve our respect, and they deserve our words of kindness and an expression of happiness and appreciation of how we feel for sacrificing so much. As these soldiers fight for us, they are also fighting for the flowers that are yet to bloom. The flowers that bloomed on the Flanders fields were tough and refused to die. That symbolizes the strength of our soldiers. Growing up, I realized what they did for us. All of this for our freedom. Recently, I lost my papa. Although he did not pass away in battle, he did serve in the U.S. Navy from 1978 to 1983. My papa was my hero. He passed away on March 31st, 2022. He had full military honors at his funeral. It was an honor to watch that. The poppy is a small yet special symbol. It represents something so remarkably special to me. I think of my papa and I think of all who have passed away as proud veterans. It's the honor to wear the poppy as a sign of patriotism.
The FCR Band, under the direction of Mr. John Scavone, will now perform Capstone March. Also each year, the American Legion presents citizenship awards to 8th grade students who have been chosen by their classmates in regard to scholarship, honor, courage, character, and companionship. Colonel Sweigel will now recognize this year's American Legion Award winners.
Thank you. Just before we get into this, this is probably the only chance I'm going to have to do this, and I wanted to take just a minute. First of all, Bob, thank you. Great speech on recognizing long overdue sacrifices of Vietnam veterans. And as you're about to hear after we do the 8th grade awards, tribute to one of our more recent losses here with Andy Brown. But I want to go back briefly for a minute to show the lineage that occurs within the military and veteran community. As you all know, there aren't any World War I vets around anymore. Just read in the 100 years ago today, actually, that the last one in Forest City passed away last week, 100 years ago. But we still have World War II veterans around, and we're losing them at a rate of, last I heard, is about 1,000 a day. We have one, my father, he's in the audience today, 96 years old, a knighted. They say he's a tail gunner, B-24s, World War II, and a knighted member of the French Foreign Chevalier distinction. But there were, until very recently, 4 known veterans of World War II in the area. We thought we were going to have a second one here today, who ironically is related to my father, who's Mr. Tip O'Neill, who's celebrating his 100th birthday next week. Unfortunately, he couldn't make it. He tried, but he just couldn't get here today. And he's celebrating his birthday on June the 4th, the day after his birthday at McDonald's Grove, if anybody wants to stop by and just wish him a happy 100th. We've got 2 others, one in the area here in Vanling. Mr. Ponser is 90, I believe he's 95, with a birthday coming up. And I'm hoping he'll make our program on Friday, or on Monday, I'm sorry, down at the, after the parade in Forest City. I encourage you guys to come out. But I want to take just a moment of silence here for the 4th member, Mr. Ray Femps, who was a Browndale resident, who we intended to honor on Friday as well. But unfortunately, in the wee hours of yesterday morning, he passed away. So, if we could have just a moment of silence for Mr. Femps. Okay, and now to the awards here for the citizenship sponsored by the American Legion. I'm gonna, the first is the women, and we have the winner, Miss Kennedy Cannon, and the runner-up, Miss Delia Mead. Each are getting a certificate suitable for framing and a check from the American Legion. If you ladies would come forward, please. Is that you? Is that you? Okay. Thank you very much. Congratulations, ladies. Thank you. And for the young men, we have the winner, Brendan Cordy, and the runner-up, Philip Hodges, please. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Colonel Sweigel, and congratulations to all of the winners. The Forest City Regional Education Foundation sponsors the Freedom Isn't Free Andrew Brown Memorial Essay Award. Sergeant Brown was a 2000 graduate of Forest City Regional and lost his life while fighting in Iraq. Sergeant Andrew Brown enlisted into the 2nd Battalion, 87th Infantry at Fort Drum in New York. He was reassigned to Fort Polk, Louisiana, into the 1st Battalion of the 509th Airborne Infantry. Sergeant Brown received many awards, including the Combat Infantry Badge, a Purple Heart, the Bronze Star for Valor, the National Defense Services Medal, and the Global War on Terrorism Service Medals, just to name a few. Here today to present the award in honor of Andrew Brown is Mr. David Doherty. Mr. Doherty was a member of the graduating class of 2000 from Forest City Regional. Not only was he a fellow classmate of Sergeant Andrew Brown's, but he was also a close friend of his and his family. Mr. Doherty graduated from Penn State University with a Bachelor of Science degree in Computer Engineering and a minor in Engineering Leadership Development. He was the past technology coordinator at Forest City Regional. He currently resides in Williamsburg, Virginia with his wife and son and works as a systems administrator for INS Services Incorporated. Welcome back, Mr. Doherty.
Thank you, Hannah, for the introduction. I remember 22 years ago, Andrew Brown, my class, faculty, staff, and administration were walking through the halls of Forest City Regional. Walking again through these halls, I see many familiar faces. Many new or old, we are all Foresters. It's great to be home and back at Forest City Regional. Growing older and raising a family, I do see things through different lenses than as a graduating student, a college student, and a young professional. The Freedom Isn't Free Award was created in response to a student who graduated in 2000 from this very school. This student was Sergeant Andrew Brown. Going through life, everyone has friends they trust, hang out with, spend time with, and enjoy life with. To his friends and family, he was Andy. Andy was a great friend to me and many other Forester alumni. Teachers, however, called him Andrew. The majority of you may never have heard of Andrew Brown. Most of you are too young to even have known him. Sergeant Andrew Brown was killed in 2004, almost 18 years ago this year. A day never goes by in which I do not think of him. I am truly honored to be asked here to present his award. Who was Sergeant Andrew Brown, or Andy? When I look into the auditorium, I see Andrew and many eyes watching me on stage. Andy was a student, just like all you here today. He attended Forest City Regional School District his entire life. He grew up in Pleasant Mount with his family. His mother, Lourdes, or Mrs. Brown, was a school teacher. His father, Bill Brown, a postal worker. And brother Kevin served in the Navy. Andy enjoyed life. He spent time with friends and did quite a bit for a young man growing up in rural Pleasant Mount. His hobbies included survival tactics, paintball, skiing, riding roller coasters, and anything military. Andy used to go from class to class carrying a 45-pound book bag, never complaining. He must have been trying to train himself subconsciously for boot camp and service later in his life with the amount of weight he lugged around. His bag was filled with books for survival, sniper tactics, along with his textbooks. Andy participated in many clubs, including the Ski Club and National Honor Society. He visited many amusement parks, including Knoebels, where the Phoenix was one of his favorites. I remember spending time with the Browns visiting Knoebels and Cedar Point. Andrew enjoyed Star Wars and Mad Max movies. One of the last memories I had with Andrew was watching Lord of the Rings: Return of the King at Cinemark. As you can see, Andrew is no different amongst all of you. He was a young student with different likes and dislikes. He went to the movies, if people still do that, and then trying to decide his future plans. From knowing Andy and what he loved, the class knew he would be joining the service. While Andy and others joined a branch of the service, classmates entered the workforce or attended college. In 8th grade, Andy and I and our classmates attended our first class trip where we stayed overnight with all parents. Our class was eager to visit Washington, D.C. to see all the memorials and monuments that we learned about in classes. We visited Arlington Cemetery and the somber tomb of the unknown soldier. We were able to see all the monuments on the National Mall. On our final day, we visited the Smithsonian Institutes where we learned about the science and history of our country. The trip was very memorable, and I always have these memories. Being an 8th grader, I think it's hard to understand the importance and connection of the monuments and how it relates to the cost of freedom. Many American lives were given up for us to live in our country, and the monuments in Washington, D.C. are testament to them. In our yearbook, Andy's advice to his class was, "Look unimportant. The enemy might be low on ammo." After graduation in 2000, Andy, with his sage advice and years of preparation, enlisted into the U.S. Army. He was pursuing his dream. He was stationed in Fort Drum, New York, and was deployed all around the world, earning many medals and awards and accomplishments. When Sergeant Brown was on leave, I would visit with him and see movies or play video games together. I remember stories of how he was deployed in Egypt, where they assisted in monitoring shipping lanes in the Nile River. It is hard to believe a young man from our area was in Egypt helping the U.S. and allies with shipping on the Nile River. As in life, nothing stays forever. The only constant is change. Andy was reassigned to Fort Polk in Louisiana, where he was assigned to the 509th Airborne Infantry. His unit was deployed to Iraq in the Iraq Freedom Campaign. In Iraq, Sergeant Andrew Brown was mortally wounded when an IED, or impromptu explosive device, detonated on his Humvee. In any other scenario, Andy would have survived, but the bomb was hidden and no one knew it existed. Sergeant Brown lost both of his legs and was immediately giving aid. Members of his unit lined up repeatedly to give him blood that he needed to stay alive. Sergeant Brown was moved to another military hospital where he lost his life on October 8th, 2004. I'll never forget that day when I learned of the news of his death. I was at Penn State University with another friend of Andy's and roommate, Dr. Richard Scarbez. We were devastated. Shortly after, there was a military service funeral in Pleasant Mountain at St. James, and thousands of people giving their respects to a young man who gave his life in service to all of us in country. The military service was sad and beautiful at the same time, seeing all the support from Pleasant Mountain, surrounding towns, cities, and people coming from all over. Sergeant Brown was laid to rest in Pleasant Mountain at St. James Cemetery. Andy died doing what he loved. He was an airborne soldier. He joined the U.S. Army knowing the cost of freedom and pursued his dreams. No serviceman or woman joins a branch of the military without the realization of the cost of freedom. They join to serve and protect their family, communities, and country. They serve to protect the United States and its Constitution and ideals. Without their service, this world would be radically different than how we experience it. It is almost 2 decades since the loss of Andy. A day never goes by in which I do not think of him. Although he's not physically around, he's always in my thoughts. Through living life, I have new memories and experiences in which Andrew would never have. Life is truly an amazing experience and often overlooked easily. I wish Andrew could be here today to share the same experiences. I stop now at St. James Cemetery to visit my friend when I can. Freedom Isn't Free is the name of this essay that you had to prepare for this award. In writing your essay, you incorporated your trip to Washington, D.C. and related your experiences to the cost of freedom. Memorial Day is a solemn holiday where we honor our service members who have met their ultimate fate. We also celebrate their service through programs, parades, family get-togethers, and barbecues. The service members who are killed in action will not have this opportunity to experience these events or make new memories. These experiences and memories that were never created due our great service members, such as Sergeant Andrew Brown, who made the ultimate sacrifice, is the cost of freedom. We will never know how Sergeant Andrew Brown would have changed or impacted this world if an IED didn't explode in Iraq on that fateful day. How our lives could have been different or impacted each other. Never forget what our current and past servicemen and women have sacrificed for our freedom, for us to live our lives in the United States. It is now my distinct honor and privilege to present Kennedy Cannon, this year's Freedom Isn't Free Award.
America, the land of the free. Freedom isn't handed to anyone who asks for it. It comes with responsibility and hard work. While most of our modern society is able to live with our own rights and freedoms, it hasn't always been like that, and it isn't something to take for granted. Freedom comes with a price that someone had to pay for. Many people that pay for our freedoms are soldiers. Andrew Brown was a soldier in the Army that got deployed to Iraq. He graduated from Forest City, and some of his former teachers stated that all he can talk about was how he wanted to join the Army. Everything he did was so that he could fight for our country. He passed in 2004 after his vehicle sustained an explosion. He
He's a strong example of how freedom that came with a price, and he will forever be honored. People have spent years trying to perfect our country's freedom, but is freedom something that can be created or earned? Arlington National Cemetery has rolling hills that are the resting place for more than 300,000 soldiers, including the tomb of the unknown soldier. The cemetery's grounds honor those who have fought for our rights and those who believe that freedom was due. All the soldiers laid to rest at the cemetery answered the call of duty, leaving friends and family behind to give their children and grandchildren the chance to live a free life. This year, my 8th grade class wasn't able to go onto our Washington, D.C. trip, so as I researched Arlington National Cemetery, I found that lots of emotions run through the paths of the cemetery. Tears of loss of their loved ones, silence out of respect for the honorable soldiers, and celebration of the beautiful lives each and everyone lived. However, throughout everything, there is a common mutual understanding everyone has for each other, knowing everyone has a connection. Everybody knows that they can thank the veterans for all they have given us and the opportunities that will continue to arise from their sacrifice. So many of the building blocks for America's freedoms were laid into place for American citizens, but those same blocks are examples for people all over the world. War is unfortunately always happening, if we know it or not, including the war against Russia and Ukraine. Ukraine is refusing to back down even though they are scared and tired. The power and faith in knowing that there can be freedom for them is strong enough to keep them going. Washington, D.C. is known for being the nation's capital and for all the monuments and memorials it has. The Martin Luther King Memorial honors all that MLK had worked for. Martin Luther King Jr. was a strong leader and believer in freedom, justice, and equality for all. Freedom is never voluntarily given by the oppressor. It must be demanded by the oppressed. MLK stated this in his 1963 letter from the Birmingham jail. He describes that those who want freedom must work for it. They must push for it, and they must not give up. Martin Luther King Jr. is an outstanding role model for everyone, those and those who are not fighting for their freedom. On the topic of monuments, one of the most popular monuments is the Washington Monument. George Washington was one of our founding fathers and our first president. George Washington, however, did not want to be a president, but he knew that Americans just fought and won a war to declare their freedom, and the people needed somebody to give them stability to grow as a country. He helped build the base for our rights and freedoms. Therefore, the First Amendment states that we have 5 basic freedoms: speech, press, religion, assembly, and petition. We have these freedoms because people had to live without them. People including George Washington. They had to know what it was like to live without being able to speak your mind freely, without being able to go to church on Sunday, and without being able to stand up for what you believe in. So the only reason we have these 5 freedoms was that because people believed in their freedom so much that they fought for it. Last but not least, the Vietnam Wall is a memorial to honor all those we lost in the Vietnam War. The wall is filled with over 58,000 names. America became involved in the Vietnam War for many reasons, but mainly because America believes in freedom for all and rights for all. All of the 58,000 names etched into the wall are the names of people who sacrificed their lives to the same beliefs in rights and freedoms. These soldiers paid the grave price for people to be able to be free. One of the biggest mistakes is thinking that it can't happen to you. It is hard for many people to put ourselves in other people's shoes and be brave enough to take a stand for what we believe in. But somebody has to do it, right? Somebody has to be the one to pay the price, and somebody has to sacrifice, because always remember, freedom isn't free. Thank you.
Doherty, and congratulations, Kennedy. The FCR Chorus, under the direction of Miss Allison Uravage, will now perform Thank You, Soldiers.
Why does my heart feel so bad? Why does my soul feel so bad? Why does my heart feel so bad? Why does my soul feel so bad? Why does my heart feel so bad? Why does my soul feel so bad?
World War I ended November 11th, 1918. World War II, September 21st, 1945. The Korean War ended July 27th, 1953. The Vietnam War ended April 30th, 1975. Desert Storm ended February 28th, 1991. Afghanistan ended August 30th, 2021. This is about Michael Kelly, AKA Machine Gun Kelly, a very close friend of mine. A band of the brothers. Mike and I served in Vietnam. This is Mike. In the center is your acting superintendent. I emphasize acting. And Ski. In September of 1970, we were out on a patrol. We were ambushed by the Viet Cong and the NVA. We became engaged in a ferocious firefight. Mike Kelly was severely wounded, and on that day in September, Ski and I helped put him on a helicopter that medevaced him to a MASH unit in Vietnam. From there, Mike was sent to a hospital ship off the coast of South Vietnam. Then on to Fitzsimmons Army Hospital in Hawaii, where he would spend the next 14 months recovering from his wounds. Let me fast forward to 1984. Almost 15 years have gone by since I last saw or heard of Mike Kelly. Last time I saw him, we loaded him on that medevac helicopter. And now, 1984, I'm the high school principal at Forest City Regional. I'm home on a Saturday morning. My wife is making me breakfast. That's, let's see, the sixth time in the last 50-some years. Kidding, of course. I'm glad she's not here. And she says to me, as she reads the Scranton Times-Tribune, "Oh, look at this. HBO is coming out with a documentary, and it's called Dear America, Letters Home." And there's a picture there promoting HBO's special. This is the picture. I don't even read the caption. I say to her, "That's Glenn Hilsinger, Ed Shuttlecuddy, and Mert Johnson. 14 years ago, we were in that firefight in the jungle. We were in that platoon. I haven't heard from one single person in 14 years. And here's their picture in the Scranton Times, promoting a movie. Monday, I come into my office in Forest City Regional High School. I call the Scranton Times-Tribune, asking them, "Where did you get that picture?" "Well, we got it from HBO." They gave me the number for HBO in New York City. I called, and they were very receptive. I told them the story. I'd love to find these three guys. Love to find out where you got the picture. They told me. Oh my God, that picture. They told me it came from a guy by the name of Michael Kelly. He lives in Sacramento, California. They provided me with his phone number. The next thing I do, I call that number. "Hello, is this Mike Kelly? The guy who served in Company D, 1st of the 502nd, 101st Airborne Division?" The other end of the phone says, "Teach, is that you?" Yes, 14 years later. We talk, and we talk, and we talk. And we make this promise to each other. Every Christmas Eve, we'll call and we'll talk. And we did. Every Christmas Eve. On Christmas Eve 2012, Michael Kelly didn't call. And my wife, after she made me breakfast, reminded me, "Hey, Kelly didn't call." So I called. His wife Kathy answers the phone. Michael Machine Gun Kelly, a nationally renowned Vietnam veteran, artist, and writer, died December 24th at his home in Sacramento, California. He committed suicide. Kelly was 65 and had been suffering from physical and emotional problems for years. This is his obituary. Mike Kelly was a force of nature, said Mark Leibson of the Vietnam Veterans Arts editor. He was severely wounded in Vietnam, but through drive and determination, he recovered and became a first-class artist and a forceful writer. And he was untiring advocate of Vietnam veterans. Mike's legacy will be in the California Vietnam Veterans Memorial, which he helped get built. And where we were in Vietnam, this poster, and I'll deviate from his obituary, was invaluable. It brought in over $1 million to help build that memorial in California. Michael P. Kelly was born in Van Nuys, California, and grew up in Montreal and Sacramento. He graduated from California State University, Sacramento, with a degree in fine art. After receiving his degree, Kelly volunteered for the draft. He was inducted in June 1969, had basic training and infantry training at Fort Ord, California, and landed in Vietnam on November 10th, 1969. Kelly did an 11-month Vietnam tour as a machine gunner with Company D, 1st Battalion, 502nd Infantry of the 101st Airborne Division. His tour ended in September 1970 when Kelly suffered severe injuries, including the loss of a lung and a landmine explosion. Sometimes calling himself Machine Gun Kelly, he went back to college, received his master's in fine art. Beginning in the early 1980s, Kelly became one of California's most forceful and effective Vietnam veterans advocates. Among other things, he served as an associate member of the California Vietnam Veterans Memorial Commission. He donated this print, Extraction from a Hot LZ, leaving behind a classic Ford and Our Innocence to the commission, which was used in their fundraising poster. Mike Kelly's artwork hangs in museums and private collections throughout the world, including at the Vietnam Veterans Headquarters in Silver Spring, Maryland, the Oakland Art Museum of California, the National Veterans Art Museum in Chicago. His articles on Vietnam veteran issues appeared in the Washington Post, the Boston Globe, the Chicago Times, and the New York Times. That's Mike Kelly, his self-portrait. You must try to understand that the Vietnam War didn't end on April 30th, 1975 for Mike Kelly. It ended on Christmas Eve, December 24th, 2012, for Michael Machine Gun Kelly. I ask of you on Monday, May 30th, Memorial Day, to take a moment. Remember Mike Kelly. Remember all the veterans, that their war ended on the day that they went to see our God. Thank you. I've had really the pleasure of being your acting superintendent for not very long, only about 3 or 4 weeks. But actually, I spent 35 years in education, in big schools in the area, medium-sized schools, of course, a smaller school like Forest City Regional. And I want to thank you. I want to give you my impression of what I found in my short time here, which is not 3 or 4 weeks, it's over 35 years. You're a great bunch of young people. You have a great, dedicated faculty, and don't take a back seat to anybody. The other thing, remember remember this. Try to hang around with somebody that's a little bit better than you, because it'll rub off. Thank you.